All right, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to tonight's meeting of the Placerville City Council. Will everybody please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? All right, well, again, welcome everybody to tonight's City Council meeting. It's good to have I think this is our first full complement for like a couple of meetings, so we have a full house tonight, which is great. So with that, we'll go ahead and move on to roll call, please.
Councilmember Clarici?
Here.
Councilmember Gottberg?
Here.
Councilmember Yarbrough?
Here.
Vice Mayor No?
Here.
Mayor Saragosa?
Here.
Thank you.
All right, moving along, we're going to move to item 3, which are ceremonial matters, and item 3.1, which is a proclamation declaring September 2023 as Prostate Cancer Awareness Month. And I'm going to go ahead and read our proclamation into the record. So this is a proclamation of the City Council of the City of Placerville declaring September 2023 as Prostate Cancer Awareness Month. Whereas prostate cancer is the most frequent diagnosed cancer in men and the second leading cause of cancer deaths in men, and whereas 1 in 8 men have a lifetime probability of developing prostate cancer, 1 in 8 women also have a lifetime probability of developing breast cancer, and whereas the American Cancer Society estimates there will be 288,000 new cases of prostate cancer in the USA in 2023, resulting in an estimated 34,700 deaths. And whereas it is estimated 26,900 men in California will be diagnosed with prostate cancer this year, and it is estimated nearly 5,000 California men will die from this disease this year. And whereas the incidence of prostate cancer is more than 70% higher in black men than in white men for reasons that remain unclear, and whereas risk factors for prostate cancer are increasing in age, African ancestry, family history of the disease, and certain inherited genetic conditions. And whereas the 5-year survival rate approaches 100% when prostate cancer is diagnosed and treated early, but drops to 32% when it spreads to other parts of the body. And whereas early stage prostate cancer usually causes no symptoms, late stage prostate cancer commonly spreads to the bones and causes pains in several areas of the body. And whereas the American Cancer Society recommends that men have a conversation with their healthcare provider and make an informed decision about whether to be tested for prostate cancer. And whereas the City of Placerville joins communities across the nation to increase the awareness about the importance for men to make informed decisions with their healthcare providers about early detection and testing for prostate cancer. Now therefore be it resolved, I, Michael Saragosa, Mayor of the City of Placerville, do hereby proclaim the month of September 2023 as Prostate Cancer Awareness Month in the City of Placerville. So thank you, and I think we have some comments that need to be made from, thank you. Please come on up to the podium. Oh, this doesn't matter anymore.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council, and in particular Regina. I think this is something like our 10th year together doing this. A lot of interesting developments since COVID. A lot of the groups are back in action, but not as well attended because everybody's still a little spooked about being out. I guess bottom line, my consistent message is get tested early, establish a benchmark, pick an age, 35, 40, whatever. Earlier if you're a black American. It'll give you a benchmark, get tested annually. It's a very simple blood test, part of the same panel they would do anything, but these days doctors are reluctant to suggest it because of past history. So you have to be your own advocate and ask for the test. Couple of things that have gone on is there's some advanced testing now, and I think we're going to get maybe, hopefully away from having to do a biopsy. So that would be kind of a major thing because I think the biopsy is probably the most traumatic thing that a man goes through in getting tested and moving along with the whole system. This last year, I lost one of my advanced guys after 8 years of battling metastatic. And this year, I lost one after a 6-year battle. But it doesn't happen very often. I get a lot of guys that get diagnosed, get treated, and are still cranking along. So I guess I'm a prime example of that. I'm some 25 years down the path from being diagnosed and treated. And the big difference is I had no choices, relatively speaking, for treatment. And these days you do. So with that, thank you very much. And I appreciate you reading the proclamation and doing it faithfully for years for us.
Absolutely. We appreciate your vigilance on behalf of our residents here. And did you say 35 people should start potentially getting tested?
Sometimes, yeah.
That's early.
I've had guys as early as 28
Wow.
diagnosed, which is rare.
Yeah.
It's usually, shall we say, guys that are over 60. That's the norm. But we've had a number of people early on in their early 30s, which is unusual, but if you get the physical, get the test. It's kind of easy.
Great. Well, I'm going to come down and present you the certificate as well. Thank you. Any comments from council? Any public comments? Yes.
Yes, I really appreciate you having the proclamation, Ruth Michelson. Just today I was reading about prostate cancer because our son was home visiting and he's 29 and we unfortunately have the occurrence of prostate cancer in our family. And actually what they said is if you have family members who are of age 65 or younger, when they got prostate cancer, that puts you into much higher risk. And then that's when you're to get tested at, I think they said 40, whereas most men, they can wait until they're 50. But anyway, yes, it's a serious issue and early testing is so important. And getting your PSA test, gentlemen, is a really simple thing, right? Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth. Any other public comments? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close public comment on the proclamation. Move on to item 4. So there was no closed session this evening. So we'll move to item 5, which is the adoption of our agenda.
I'll move the agenda.
I'll second.
Thank you. We have a first and a second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Clarici?
Aye.
Councilmember Gottberg?
Aye.
Councilmember Yarbrough?
Aye.
Vice Mayor No?
Aye.
Mayor Zaragoza?
Aye. Thank you. We're going to move to item 6, which are brief comments by city, and item 6.1, announcements, presentations to the public. Item 6.1, brief comments by city council. We'll start with Councilman Yarbrough, please.
I have none this evening.
All right, thank you. Vice Mayor.
I have none.
Okay. Councilman Clarici.
None.
Also none.
All right. I will just make one quick comment. The 29th, Cleve, we have our special city council meeting with the Planning Commission and the city and council, talk about historical standards within the city. It's a really important meeting. I hope the public can come out. It's at 5 o'clock? 4 o'clock. 4 to 6. 4 to 6. Gotcha. So 4 to 6 on the 29th. Please come out if you have a chance. I'll probably say this again at the end of the meeting, but just wanted to make sure people know about it and come on out because it is a really important discussion that we're having in the city. Thank you. All right, so with that, we'll move to item 6.2, and this is our semi-annual update on our social media presentation by Emily Idleman. So Emily, come on forward, and Cleve, if you had any opening on this item.
Not really. I think I'll just turn it over. Emily's been great to work with over the last about, almost a year now. We're coming up on a year. And so we wanted to do this presentation and see how we're doing. So.
All right, great. Well, Emily, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So I'm going to skip the giant introduction that I did last time because by now most of you are familiar with me. But for those of you in the audience who maybe aren't, I am the owner of Bold Communications, a public relations agency that also serves the city of Placerville. I have family here in El Dorado County. I have kids here in El Dorado County. I volunteer here in El Dorado County, in Placerville specifically. So I am a small business owner and a single mom, and I'm not some giant corporation from the Bay Area. So just kind of wanted to put that out there. Kudos to the city for hiring small businesses. And anyway, moving on. So just to go over some contract highlights, our contract has run from September of 2022 until September of 2023. And under this contract, I create engaging organic social campaigns, meaning I create content specific to the city of Placerville. We monitor social pages, and manage your guys' social media pages as well. And we also engage on behalf of the city of Placerville. So when the public comments on any of the city posts or anything like that, I'm the one that is responding and providing information back. And a lot of times I actually work with the city department heads here and the city manager, Cleve. So this isn't information that I'm just making up. This is information that's actually from the city. We also create data-driven paid social campaigns, and actually...
It could be really interesting if you just started making stuff up, but...
I could, right?
No.
So we've actually only ran one advertisement, a paid advertisement this contract year, and that was recently. That was for the Connect Placerville broadband campaign. We track all the social campaigns, so I provide you guys with quarterly updates, and I also provide Cleve with other updates as well as the staff. I meet with them weekly and provide feedback on, what material works well for the city and what, maybe we need to improve upon. Also managing and monitoring your social reputation. So as a local resident, I am a part of a lot of the other local Facebook groups. So I look out for comments that not necessarily disparaging towards the city, but maybe just misinformation that's out there. And then I work with the department heads and Cleve as well to maybe clear some of that misinformation up as well. And then the other thing that's under the contract is press release writing and disbursement, but that's not something that we have had to do. Luckily, PR-wise, we are doing pretty good. The one thing I do want to point out is that the contract focuses on organic growth, meaning we're not dumping a ton of money into boosting posts or paid advertisements or anything of that sort to get our message out there. And organic growth takes quite some time, and it's something that needs to be, you post on a consistent basis. And of course, you want to make sure your content is engaging. So that's the beauty about this, is it's not costing a ton of money, extra money, like you would maybe with a marketing agency. A marketing agency is going to focus on, paid advertisements and such. So our goals, the city of Placerville is currently focused on the growth and performance of its social media accounts on Facebook and Instagram. The city has yet to invest in other platforms such as Twitter, TikTok, Snapchat, Pinterest, Discord, whatever else is out there, right? We're mainly focused on Facebook and Instagram, primarily because that's what the demographic in this area uses. That's something that we can always reevaluate at a later time, but within this last year, I have not seen a reason for us to expand or invest in other platforms. All growth, as I said, is obtained organically, and it's not through the use of digital advertisements. So here are the goals that we aim to reach within the first year, which is become a trusted source of information for Placerville citizens, strengthen community relationships, increase the quantity and quality of content, drive follower growth, and increase reach and engagement rate. The city's social media strategy focuses on reliability, growth, and engagement through organic measures. We provide the information we believe the public wants to hear or needs to receive, and obtain feedback from citizens to further this strategy. So we have used these platforms to reach the public directly, communicating with them the following information: emergency updates such as traffic and construction, inclement weather. So when we had those insane storms earlier this year, we made sure to update the public with different resources that were available, say at the Placerville Police Department, like sandbags. Again, resources, campaigns, so Trip to Green, Connect Placerville, fulfilling grant requirements. There's certain grants that the city has. It's usually with other government grants that there's certain information that we have to put out there to comply with that grant. And then promoting any city events as well. So the key metrics that we're going to discuss are followers, reach, and engagement. Followers are the number of people who have subscribed to our page. Reach is the number of people who saw content from our page. And engagement is a way for us to track how our audience interacts with our content. So these are our current audience demographics, both on Facebook and Instagram. So as you can see, on Facebook we have over 5,900 followers, and primarily that's women between the ages of 25 and 65 or older. On Instagram, we actually have 374 when I checked earlier, so that number has changed as of last week. Again, it's primarily women between the ages of 25 and, we'll say 60, because it tapers off around 60 or 55. These are really good numbers. Where we started in September of last year on Instagram, we had 22 followers. On Facebook, it was around 18 or 1,900, I want to say. So, we've seen some dramatic growth here, right? So our content overview. So for reference, our Facebook reach between September and December of last year was about 100,000, right? January through March, our Facebook reach was almost 240,000. So now we've nearly doubled that between May and July. Pretty good numbers reaching. And before anyone asks what that spike is, I don't know. And the reason I don't know is because we actually didn't post anything on that day that we had that spike. But we did have a post that went out 2 days prior to that spike, and then the following day and the day after that, we had posts that were also pretty significant in reach. So I think just maybe that first post, people saw it, they checked out our page, they saw our other posts, but there was not one specific post that drove that spike right there. It's just kind of amazing how the algorithm works. So January through April, our reach here was actually at around, 230,000, and engagement was at 5.2, 5.3. So as you can see, we've already gone up. Our engagement rate went up by almost 20% this quarter, and our post reach went up, like I said, almost double. We're at 402, so pretty good numbers. Instagram, our Instagram reach from September to December was at 210. And then between January and March was at 402. So it has dipped a little bit, but our growth, our overall follower growth has grown. So sometimes it's just that we are getting lost in a sea of other voices, so our content's not always being viewed because maybe the algorithm doesn't see it as engaging as some of the other stuff. So it's not necessarily a bad thing that we dropped just a little bit. It's not like it was a drastic drop, but we did drop. So it's just something that I need to keep an eye on as far as what kind of content we're putting out there on Instagram.
Emily, a question on that. Is our content mirrored essentially Facebook and Instagram, or are you doing different content for both platforms?
So it's mostly mirrored. The exception to that is anything with links. So you can't actually post a link on Instagram. You can post a link in your bio, or on a story, but you can't post, say, like a survey. If we're trying to get surveys, numbers up, we can't post a link there. So then I have to kind of taper our content so that it's more friendly. Maybe instead I just post it as a story on Instagram versus posting it as a standalone post, in which case those are different metrics, because then you have your story reach versus your post reach. So that's why there's some variability between the two platforms. But then also, even though they are owned by Meta, right, they're different platforms, which doesn't entirely make sense. You would think that the algorithm works the same on Instagram versus Facebook, but it doesn't quite do that. And so Instagram favors more reels, whereas Facebook is typically more graphics, sometimes reels too, but it's just different audiences, different content. Okay, so our Instagram content overview, January through April, was at 422 for our reach, and engagement was at 111. So overall, we're still doing good. We're still seeing growth in those numbers, which is exactly what we want. This is the one paid advertisement that we ran during this contract, which is the Connect Placerville Broadband Project. So this ad ran from August 1st to August 15th, and it cost approximately $127.05. The survey responses as of July 31st was 256. Survey responses as of August 15th, after the completion of the ad ran, was approximately 440. So in working with Entry Point, which is the consultant helping with this project, they said that this ad that we ran boosted responses by about 170%. So overall, it was a good investment of money.
I will say on that, Emily, I saw the paid advertisement quite a bit. So for the low cost, we actually got it. The penetration was pretty good. So
yeah, it ran. It only targeted individuals within the city of Placerville and people who liked our page and people similar to them. So it's not like this ad was run all across California. It was strictly targeting individuals within the city. So our Facebook business comparison, the last presentation I did, we had approximately 5,700 followers and 204 content interactions. So we have already grown since that quarter. We're actually in the 75th percentile in current and new followers when you're looking at businesses compared to us. And so businesses compared to us would be the city of Auburn, the city of Roseville, the city of South Lake Tahoe, that type of stuff. It's not like it's comparing the city of Placerville with the state of California or with a boba tea shop. And we're in the between the 50th and 75th percentile in content interactions. So again, we're still seeing growth, and we're performing in some cases better than businesses that are similar to ours on Facebook. So this is the overall business comparison. So this is what's showing. Like I said, we're looking at the city of South Lake Tahoe, Sacramento, Roseville, Folsom, Placerville, and Auburn. And so I would also say, too, to take some of this with a grain of salt when you're looking at this business comparison. It's a slightly unfair comparison, but it does give us an idea of where we stand locally, right? And I say that it's slightly unfair because you're looking at cities that are significantly bigger than ours, too. So, according to the Census Bureau, South Lake Tahoe, they have a population of over 21,000, which is double the city of Placerville. Sacramento has a population of 525. Roseville's at 151. Folsom's at 81. Auburn's at 13, and we're between 10 and 11. So we're outperforming the city of Auburn, who has a population that's 3,000 more than ours. So again, it's good, but again, take it with a grain of salt when we're looking at this comparison. It's slightly unfair in scale. So the last presentation, when we were addressing the Instagram business comparison, we had approximately 242 followers and 32 content interactions. As you can see, we now have, well, this number says 364, but like I said, as of this afternoon, we were at 374. So we are below the 25th percentile in current followers. We're above the 75th percentile in new followers, so we're still seeing that growth. And then we're between the 25th and 50th percentile in content interactions. So while we may still be below standard as far as, Instagram followers, we are still seeing that growth, which is what we want. And again, here's our Instagram business comparison. The city of Auburn doesn't seem to have an Instagram, but I'm sure if it did, we'd still win. But you're looking at the city of Roseville, South Lake Tahoe, and Sacramento. So yes, we are still, below average there. Or actually, who knows, we could actually be average if you're looking at other cities that have similar population sizes to ours. And then this is our year in review graph. So the blue is Facebook, and the green is Instagram. So you can see our growth over time from September of last year to July, the end of July this year. We started at around, that number is so tiny, and I'm so sorry. I think it says 1988. So we started at about 1,900 followers on Facebook, and now we're at 5,912. Well, higher as of today, but as of the end of July, 5,912 on Facebook. And you can see there was that massive steady growth. So we started just sharing content, and content that people needed to see and wanted to see regularly. We were very consistent with our postings, very consistent with information, and consistent with interacting and engaging with the public. That growth has kind of tapered off, which is what I would expect. I mean, we're talking about a population for the city less than 11,000, and you've got over half of it following you on Facebook. That's pretty good. That's, growth that I would not have expected myself. So we're doing better than I would even expect. And again, on Instagram, we started at 22, and we're over 300. It's been slightly slow in the beginning with Instagram, and it usually is, but I get new followers on there. I see notifications daily. So we get at least one new follower a day. I mean, again, when I created this and submitted it last Wednesday, we were at 364, and here we are Tuesday at 374. So it's 10 new followers in less than a week. And that is it. That's all I have for you.
All right. Thank you, Emily. Any questions or comments at this point? Vice Mayor?
Go ahead. I had a question about, you said that half of the city's population is following. How do you track that? I mean, because 95667 has 35,000 people. How do you know that those likes are from the city limits?
So I'm not sure if you're on Facebook or not, but
Yeah.
you can select your hometown, and you can also select the city that you currently live in. So those demographics appear when I'm looking at our insights. It shows me that there's 22% of our followers on Facebook that live in Placerville. There's another 15% that live in northern Placerville. And then there's, breakups here between, Cameron Park and Camino and Pollock. Also, with that, I know from myself, for example, it says on Facebook that I live in Diamond Springs, but I don't live in Diamond Springs. I live in Cameron Park. So people aren't updating exactly where they live. But overall, I believe between the 22 and the 19, forgive me, I'm terrible at math on the spot, but that's, almost 40% of our following on Facebook is technically within Placerville, is what Facebook is saying.
Okay. I just was kind of amazed that half of our population is following.
They're
You figure
tracking
that's
you.
almost like every adult, since half of them are probably children. I'm somewhat skeptical of that.
Yeah.
A couple other comments I had, comparing to other cities, it might be helpful to consider Grass Valley, Jackson, some of other foothill cities when we're doing those comparisons. And then I looked at Sonora, and Sonora is like off the charts. They don't seem to have a regular page like we do, but I would consider contacting them to see what they're doing, because they seem to be doing it better than a lot of the other foothill cities.
Interesting.
And then my last comment that I'd kind of like my colleagues to consider is some of the content that we're putting out there. I'd like to see us put more of our Park and Rec meetings, our H&L meetings, all the commissions and meetings that we have. I think we should be using this as an outreach tool to let people know that it's happening. And those are my comments.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Yeah, so I think my questions are sort of related to, what we might be able to do to increase our following on Instagram, since I think we're doing really great on Facebook with our population side and number of followers and getting information out that way. As they do sort of trend toward reels, could we do more video? I would be happy to do video. I don't know about my fellow council members, but if you want me to say something or whatever, that might help get that out in a different way that sort of tracks to Instagram versus Facebook.
Yeah, so good points, and those are actually all points that I was going to discuss tomorrow with Cleve. I have a meeting with Cleve to go over this contract, things that went well and things that didn't. So I can already tell you that the posts that we have that are like flyers, the graphics, they do not trend well. There's very low engagement consistently throughout this last year on posts like that. Posts that feature our employees or our city council members actually do better. We had our biggest post by far has been a photo of a plow truck driver in the city of Placerville when we had all that snow. That was our biggest trending post of the year. I'm not exaggerating. And all it was a very distant photo of a plow truck driving down a hill covered in snow. So, and of course, there was information that went with that post. But yes, like I said, we need to kind of tailor our content. This first year was really just kind of like seeing where we're at, right? We were really low. We've gotten up, but we're not done. We've made strides, but we're nowhere near done. So that's going to require more work between, myself and the department heads and their staff, and also you guys as well. So if the contract renews, we can talk about that.
Oh, sounds good. And thank you, Emily, for the update. To me, and as you all know, this was something that I had been wanting to do for a long time for lack of having a PIO and not, kind of having the one-offs by our staff, which was unfair to them to have to go in and do public or social media posts, different things. It just wasn't, it's not their job. So, I see, more and more growth in this area for us as we go forward. And I like the idea of including H&L and Peak and other things. Because we've had some pretty big issues, at those committees and, for the work that they do and for how we spend tax dollars. That get recommendations from H&L. I think those are definitely ones for the public to have a better sense of, and also when we have vacancies, so that people know, okay, I know what that I know what that committee's doing. I might want to take part in that as well. So, I think those are great suggestions for us to do. So with that, Emily, I'm going to ask you to hang out, but I'm going to go ahead and open up for public comments. So if you have any public comments on this item, please feel free to come forward. Thank you.
Ruth Carter, City of Placerville. I would like to say that I appreciate the information that's been going out. I will say that on some of the items, such as our National Night Out, there was some information that was lacking, as well as on the city website, which I realize she is not responsible for. It was very difficult to find detailed information. I was trying to share with other people, and we were actively part of that, and there was not there was a lot of detail missing. And so I think that that maybe is something that needs to be connected, and not just assumed that people understand and know where these things are happening. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth.
Smith, a lot of the language is new to me, so many of you may have understood it. I didn't. For example, it talked about client interactions, and I'm not sure, or content interactions. What are those interactions? And then the mention of posted ads. What are the ads, and how do we know what kind of ads were effective and produced what kind of response? Again, as the Vice Mayor asked about the Facebook followers, how do we know that they are living in Placerville, given that the zip code is so wide? So if you could explain those terms, it'd be helpful. When you talk about ads, if you could give some examples so we know what you're referring to. And just to follow up what was said a moment ago, I did on occasion look to the city's page for example, on National Night Out, and I don't remember being able to easily find where the events were happening. And so that's something that you can kind of fine tune. Thank you.
Thank you, Kirk.
Thank you for the presentation. I appreciated it. So a couple thoughts were, now that the city is the sponsor of the downtown events, the 7 street closure events, are we promoting those?
We'll,
Oh, you don't have
we'll
to-
go ahead and have it answered after.
Anyway,
Yeah.
yes, rhetorical question, sorry. I would hope that we would be promoting those 7 street closure events. And I just wanted to reiterate what already Kirk Smith has said and City Council Member No, that I live 7 miles west near the college, and I have a Placerville address and a 95667. So obviously the area code has nothing to do really with the city proper, right? Many of us have Placerville 95667. So there might need to be a better way to discern how many of those people actually live within the boundaries of the city. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Good evening. I'm Heidi Meyerhofer, former business owner, former property owner on Main Street, but a continual lover of Placerville. I just wanted to say I'm very grateful that you are making the investment in this kind of promotion of Placerville, and I appreciate that you have hired a local small business entrepreneur. So, and I want to just say that, yeah, Emily is absolutely right. These things take time to build, and from what I saw tonight, great progress has been made, and I just hope that the commitment to this kind of work continues. Thank you.
Thank you, Heidi. Okay, any other public comments? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and close public comments. Emily, I don't know if you wanted to pop back up and answer. I know there was a couple of questions on there in regards to what interactions mean. If you want to just explain it again. And then I know posted ads, I think we only had one, and the only posted ad was for the broadband survey where we actually paid money. So that was the only one that was a quote unquote, I would call an ad that was out there. Everything else was really topical topics, whether, I know I just forwarded out an ad for next week for the joint Placerville City Council Planning Commission meeting. So that was just, I think, posted earlier today. And then for client interactions are basically when people interact with the post. So you post about the joint planning commission meetings. Then there's some interaction between whether it's with Emily posting on behalf of the city. We get content back, or we're answering questions in regards to, if there's questions in regard to the post, or if there's, as she's mentioned before, misinformation on something, then we'll try to correct the record as well. So those are what interactions would be as well. Or if people are retweeting it, maybe they're adding their own taglines on Instagram. So a couple of different ways you can interact with the posts. Did I leave anything out?
Well, the whole being in the city, but I think she.
Oh.
I think she mentioned. That might be.
Yeah, I mean, I do a lot of this I've done a lot of this for, campaigns, client work. I mean, it's not there's no way you can completely segregate out just the city of Placerville line. I mean, you could, if you paid a lot of money to really data mine into the system. So you're going to get some overlap with people that are within probably 95667 or that list city of Placerville as their city, even though they live, in right outside of the area, but live probably within the zip code. So not an exact science in that sense, but you can get pretty close when you data mine it out, and it just depends on how much money you really want to spend to get even deeper into. You can overlay like a voter file to try to really get into the exact people. And that's what we do in campaigns. We'll overlay a voter file into Facebook algorithms to really hit the people you're trying to go to. But a lot more expensive, a lot more involved when you're doing something like that. So I think we're getting a good bang for our buck by just doing those sort of geolocations around it. So you're trying to take out as much extra stuff, but this gives us a good baseline. So is that correct, Emily? Am I off? Sort of? Feel free. No, come on up and let us know. So
when we're talking engagements, we're talking about likes, comments, and shares. So anytime we post anything on our pages, we're looking for engagement because we don't want just people to just see the content. We want them to interact with the content because that gives us feedback too on what more we can provide to them. And as far as the location, you're right in the sense that yes, it would cost a ton of money in order to know exactly who lives or even works in, because again, people who follow our page, they may not live in the city, but they do work within city limits, right? So they want to keep up to date with what's happening here. It's not possible without spending a ton of money to get exactly pinpoint on that within city limits. And then think about it too. You want people who maybe regularly visit the city as well to follow our page, right? Take the city of South Lake Tahoe. Like I said, their population was around 21,000, and they have double that following on Facebook. It's a huge tourist attraction. And there's pros and cons to having people maybe who don't live or work in city limits to following your page, because if they interact, they may not be in the best interest of what's actually happening within the city. But still, we want to make sure that the information we're putting out there is appropriate for people who not only live in the city, but who work in the city and who visit the city.
great. Thank you. I really appreciate the clarifications. Thank you. All right. Any other questions on this one? All right, Emily, thanks again for the updates, and we will go ahead and move to item 7, which is our consent calendar. All matters listed under the consent calendar are considered routine and will be enacted by one motion by roll call vote unless any member of the council wishes to remove an item for discussion. So I will go ahead and, is there any questions or items that? Legal decision. Yes.
We have one small edit to item 7.5.
Okay.
And that's on the Middletown apartment project, where the resolution and the motion describe declaring the land surplus land. We actually want to describe it as exempt surplus land. And the reason for that is under the Surplus Land Act, we're required to decide whether a piece of land that we're doing something with is exempt surplus land or just regular surplus land. And for the purpose we're declaring it surplus here, it's actually exempt surplus land, which means there's a whole lot fewer notice requirements and other things we have to go through to declare it surplus. And because of the purpose we're using it for here, it is actually under the statute exempt surplus land.
All right. Thank you, Andreas. That is definitely new information that I learned this evening, so thank you. All right. So with that addition or change on 7.5, do we have any items that you wish to pull or have further discussion? All right. Seeing none, I will then go ahead and open up the consent calendar to any public comment.
Rodman, can you hear me okay? Yes. City of Placerville. I think the consent calendar is supposed to be for routine items. And there's a couple of things here that I don't consider really routine. They've been going on for a long time, but I think that they really shouldn't be done as part of a consent calendar, partly because of the amount of money. 7.7 is $1,600,000. And the Clay Street Bridge has been going on for quite a while, and that one is going to be a big one too. So I would think that those two probably shouldn't be just consent calendar items. That's my comments.
Thank you, Sue.
Ruth Carter, City of Placerville. Items 7.6 and 7.7, I agree with Sue. I believe that they should be pulled from the consent calendar. They are much bigger items. And I would like to, if they're not pulled, have permission to read a comment that I have.
Feel free.
Okay. Thank you. Regarding item 7.6, the city has spent $2.2 million of taxpayers' money on the project that most people don't want in the epicenter of our historical Gold Rush Main Street. Basically for what? This project will destroy the town's historic footprint. The money could have already been used to repair and improve the existing bridge or replace the existing bridge and added a walking bridge next to it. It just survived a 400-year flood compared to what has happened down by the Spring Street entrance there on Main Street, as we all saw that horrible sinkhole. So that was my comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth. Okay, any other further public comment? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and close public comment. Item 7.7 actually isn't 1.6 million. It's 149,972. That's the total of the project's 1.6 million. I'm comfortable leaving it on consent. I don't know if anyone has any questions on 7.6. All right. So we're going to leave everything on consent. So with that, then I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to adopt the consent calendar with the revision to item 7.5 suggested by our attorney on the language.
A second.
All right, we have a first and a second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Clarici?
Aye.
Councilmember Gottberg?
Aye.
Councilmember Yarbrough?
Aye.
Vice Mayor No?
Aye.
Mayor Saragosa?
Aye, sorry.
As a point of clarity, on the bridge, the money that we've got to actually replace the bridge cannot be used to fix the old bridge. The old bridge is unfixable. And so if we wanted to try to fix that bridge, we would have to go through an entirely different process and funding, and the funds we have would not do that. So that is just inaccurate. I also don't know if the entire town doesn't like this project. So I'm comfortable with this thing. I just voted for it. But yeah, the funding would not be there. We'd be spending our own money to fix a 100-year-old bridge.
Yeah, this to be clear, this is not general fund dollars. Yeah. All right. So with that, we will go to item 8, which is public comment on non-agendized items. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons wishing to address the council on any matter not on the agenda, but that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the city council. So we'll go ahead and go to item 8.1, which is oral communication. So please feel free to come on up on any item that's not on the agenda.
Good evening, Mayor and Council and staff. I've come tonight to reintroduce myself to you. I have recently joined, I know a lot of you here tonight, most of you, but you may not know that I have recently joined Senator Marie Alvarado-Gill's team. She's the District 4 Senator, which represents 13 counties, El Dorado County being her second most populous county. And she has made a commitment to having representation in the county. I am her district representative. I'll be serving primarily El Dorado, but surrounding counties and as needed elsewhere. So I just thought I would tell you that she is committed to listening to constituents and to local leaders and to developing partnerships as needed, as desired, and as appropriate, and that I will be available. I'll be sending you an email. Actually, we're going to be having an open house October 5th in El Dorado Hills. She has a Modesto office, the Capitol office, and an El Dorado Hills office in Town Center. And then I'm doing mobile office hours throughout the county also. I've been in conversation. We're focusing a lot of our interest in the Tahoe Basin. We participated in the environmental summit that was just there a couple weeks ago, and are just really excited about all the ways that we can collaborate with local agencies to bring whatever the state can to projects and interests in our district. So anyway, I'm here tonight to just represent Senator Marie Alvarado Gill and to tell you that we'll be inviting you to our soiree on October 5th.
Thank you, Heidi. And, we're really blessed to have Senator Gill as well as Joe Patterson. We have two great representatives for our area that really have done a lot already. I mean, they're brand new representatives to our area, and they've really stepped up in a meaningful way in a short amount of time. So, we appreciate that leadership at the Capitol. A lot of times this area is sort of, you don't have the same voice as maybe other areas that are more urban centered. So to see her step up the way she has in her first year has been I'm very happy with that. I'm sure a lot of people in this area are too. So thank you.
I'm glad you've noticed, because I've been following her since she was elected, and I was asked to join the team in July. And I'm amazed at what she's been able to accomplish. Her energy and enthusiasm is remarkable. And she really understands rural needs. They're very different, and her district is very rural. She goes all the way from Truckee to the tip of Inyo County. She likes to say she follows the backbone of California. She follows the Sierras, but it's also, I think, that she recognizes the rural component and the hard work and the special needs that are often overlooked, and she doesn't want to be the one overlooking that. She's very connected, and she's making commitments. I'm an example, so thank you.
Well, good. Yeah, congratulations on the position, and thank you for the reintroduction.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll continue with public comments.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Ryan Carter, City of Placerville. I just want to say I'm a little disappointed, despite two members of the public asking for you guys to pull items for discussion. Historically, the council has been very willing to pull items. As a matter of fact, I asked, I think, in the last meeting for something to be pulled, and you guys did it. Especially on a light calendar night like we have tonight, I think it would have been appropriate for you guys to pull those items and just given the public a little more time to consider and speak on those items. So I hope in the future, especially when you have multiple members of the public asking for an item to be pulled from consent, that you would consider their request and just have a little bit more discussion on those items. So thank you.
Thank you.
Ruth Michelson. Yeah, good point. But I came to speak tonight, kind of if you'll just humor me a little bit, just a little bit of a walk down memory lane, and it's something that you all had something to do with, so it is pertinent. You've probably heard that the therapy store downtown has closed permanently, and the Folsom location also. And I guess the reason I want to walk down memory lane is you know that I was one of the proponents that fought that chain stores downtown. And it was a long battle, and we lost. And some of the things that we heard back during, when it was heard in front of Planning Commission and here at City Council, were things like, we need chain stores because they provide stability. Yes, I have an elephant's brain for memory for details. And I certainly know that was said in Peak. And actually, I don't need to name names, but I'm looking at someone who I think said that. The point being, what I really want to say is, when you're a mom and pop business owner, you are willing to put your heart and soul and blood and tears into your business during the good times and the bad times. And when it's a corporate business, it's all about bottom line. And in these tough economic times that we're all experiencing downtown, this has been a bad fiscal year for us. It just has been. I don't know the reasons why. It's even bad at Disneyland. People just aren't spending money. But when you're a corporation and the bottom line looks bad, you cut your losses and you leave town. Mom and pops stick through it thin and thin, thick and thin. And I believe even during all the difficulties of COVID, I think we only lost 2 businesses. We lost 1 restaurant and we lost 1 art gallery. Everyone else stuck with it. So I just want to say that, and I'm a good friend of Dana now that he's here with sourdough. I mean, I fought him too, but he's here. Might as well welcome him. But he will tell anyone who's a friend of his that it's not a good situation for him either, with all the high rent that corporation, how am I doing, 18 seconds, better hurry up. Anyway, I just hope that if it comes in front of you again about formula stores, you will stop and think about it. It makes us unique to not have chain stores, and they do not succeed here overall in historic Main Street. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth. Okay, any other public comments? All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and close public comments. Regina, do we have any written communications?
No, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you. All right, we did not have any items pulled from consent. There were no ordinances this evening, no public hearings. So we will move to item 12, which are discussion and action items, and item 12.1. And that is to consider approving and accepting an agreement with the California Office of Traffic Safety, Selective Traffic Enforcement Program grant in the amount of $65,000 for targeted enforcement of drunk driving and unsafe driving, and a $65,000 budget appropriation from the said grant. And Chief Friend has this for us this evening.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, this is one of the grants that yearly we're pretty aggressive in going after, because traffic is the #1 complaint yearly that we receive at the police department, issues surrounding traffic. This funding affords our office the opportunity to conduct specialized enforcement operations such as watching stop signs in neighborhoods or go into areas where we received complaints of speed. We also analyze the data collected from traffic collisions, different areas of the roadways that we need to pay a little bit more attention to. So if we didn't have this grant, it would be up to patrol officers to try to do these things daily, and to be quite honestly, they don't have the time. So this grant provides reimbursement funding for overtime operations, and also provides funding for purchase of equipment that we believe would help in our efforts to address dangerous driving or drunk driving or drug driving within the city of Placerville. I know this has been up, I think I do this every year, if I'm not mistaken. So if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer. I encourage people to read the 16-page grant agreement that actually enumerates and highlights the details of the grant. So thank you.
Thank you, Chief. I think, and then we got more this time than we normally get?
This is the highest award we've received.
Great. Is that based on any, is that like weighted somehow, or?
To get the grant, yeah, because there's been years where previously where we didn't receive the grant funding, but unfortunately we've had traffic fatalities over the last couple of years, and that puts us kind of on the radar of OTS. So then we're you know, and it's just a matter of us being more aggressive with the grant application process and lobbying for the city to receive those funds from our representative at the Office of Traffic Safety. So,
Thank you. Any other comments or questions?
I have a comment. This is an interesting, it's sort of fortuitous because I just finished some work. I'm not done, but one of my clients is Lassen County, and I've been talking to the CHP up there. And they, for the last few years, they've been understaffed, but they finally got their staffing up, and they've been able to do more enforcement on Highway 395. And so citations are up, Dewey citations are up, other kinds of monitoring and such. And what's been an interesting outcome of that is in that same time period, accidents have gone down, and fatal accidents have all but gone to zero, which is what you're looking for. And it's mostly because of enforcement. It's all because of black and white presence. When you're out there and you're enforcing, it's really important for folks to understand that we're not trying to be mean. That's how you get the safety stuff to happen, because people slow down, they're more cautious, they avoid doing stupid things, or at least we think they try to avoid doing stupid things. So I'm really excited by this. I think it's the right way to go. The big challenge, though, is we tend to want to blame all the people from outside being our problems, and what we tend to find out is lots of our problems are self-inflicted, sort of homegrown problems, as it were. So anyway, but yeah, congratulations.
Thank you. Any other? Were you going to say something, Cleve? I thought I saw. Okay. Anything else? All right. We'll go ahead and open up item 12.1 for any public comment.
Good evening, Ryan Carter. I forgot to mention earlier, but speaking tonight just as a private citizen, no official capacity. I was interested on page 3 of the grant agreement. I hope I'm not putting the chief on the spot tonight, but I was really interested by these stats from the OTS crash rankings, Group E category. I've never seen any of these stats before. What I was really curious about is it good to have a low score or a high score? Is this golf or football? So I see we're ranked, 19th in pedestrian injury crashes. Is that bad or good? We're 49th in bicycle, 65th in the composite. Anyway, if possible, Chief, if you could address what this OTS ranking is, what Group E is, and if not tonight, we can do it another night. But I just found these rankings to be really interesting. I just wasn't sure how to interpret them, whether having a low score was good or a high score is good. So other than that, I wanted to agree with Councilman Clarici. I noticed that our brand new crosswalk at the Placerville station, that really nice little sign in the middle of the crosswalk is already gone. So I'm assuming somebody smashed it, and so it lasted less than 2 weeks. But yeah, anyway, so this is obviously an issue. Crosswalks in general are dangerous, and that one in particular. But anyway, thank you. Just hope that I can get some information on that OTS ranking.
Thank you, Ryan.
Sue Rodman, City of Placerville. Congratulations. I think this is a good thing to do because Councilmember Colucci is correct. The way you get compliance with law is enforce it. If nobody enforces the law, everybody tends to ignore it. But when you go down the road and you see that black and white, it alerts you, and the next thing you look at is your speedometer. And say, okay, better slow down 5 miles an hour here. And but I think it's good to have them out there because otherwise people just don't pay attention. And people don't think about going out to the bar and having a few and then driving home. They think that's going to be okay. Oh, I made it last time, I'll make it this time, and this time maybe they kill somebody. So I think it's a great idea. I'm glad you're being aggressive and going and getting those grants to do this for us. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Sue. All right. Seeing no further comments, I'll go ahead and close public comment. Chief, did you have a sense on the rankings on the?
Yeah, you want to be at the bottom of the list. The bottom of the list means that you don't have the problem that other jurisdictions have. So the way they factor that in is based on population statewide. So we would be comparable in a city from 10,000 population to 25,000 population up and down the state. Obviously, it'd be pointless to try to compare us to like the city of LA. The numbers just wouldn't be there. So they look at our numbers based on those other jurisdictions and the traffic-related issues that they're experiencing. So if we have, the thing that really sends us up and sends us into a high number bracket that again puts us on the radar of OTS or fatal or major injury traffic collisions. Excuse me, when we complete our traffic accident reports, they're uploaded into a state program called SWITTers, and that compiles all the data for us and generates this printout of our ranking, where we're at, and some of the factors that we need to look at. And it also identifies what the primary collision factors were for that incident. And we can kind of say, okay, if we have an issue of speed that's causing a majority of the injuries, and we know the location, then we can better deploy resources to address that specific area. So, top of the list, I think, is, if I remember correctly, bad. Lower number bad. But let me follow up on that, and I'll get some information. I got people that look at all these numbers for me, so I don't have to do it all the time. But I believe if you rank high, top of the list, that with injury, and they lump them together with injuries, accidents, stuff like that. So, but let me check.
Hey, Chief, does this all include accidents and incidents on Highway 50 inside the city limits?
Yes.
Okay, so a little bit of it is the state highway.
Right. It's, yeah, as it enters the city, it stops becoming a state highway and becomes a city road.
Yeah, I know.
We're lucky in that.
Yeah. Okay.
We get that two ways. Back to them if they want it.
We have 49 plus we get.
I'm assuming, okay, I shouldn't assume this. What is the breakout for like accidents and stuff on the highway as opposed to the surface streets in town?
The highway is where we see most of our injury collision.
Yeah, okay.
But the surface streets are mostly your fender bender.
Right, okay. I mean,
because they don't generate the speed traditionally.
Exactly. I mean, the it's still inside the city limits, but yeah, I mean, it is kind of a different animal because even though it's our highway, whatever.
If we didn't have the responsibility for that, our numbers would be low.
Would be low. Exactly. Yeah. Okay.
Surface streets are relatively safe. You
Right.
get minor fender benders, but nothing,
Low
nothing like we see with higher speeds up on 50. Motorcycle collisions, stuff like that, is just, they're pretty gnarly.
Right. Okay. Thank you for the clarification.
I get it. I think I could be a number or a statistic any day when I just push it out of on Green Street on the Highway 49 because you can't see around the bend, so you're like, you got to gun it to get out of there. It is what it is. Okay. Thank you, Chief. We'll get the numbers to you, Ryan, on whether it's up or down. I'd be interested to know too. If sounds like we're on the worst side because of Highway 50, though. Okay. Any other questions on this item?
I just want to, I believe the point was made up about the little pedestrian crossing sign that was on Mosquito Road crosswalk. That was a temporary measure, I believe, Rebecca, prior to the lights being installed, and it was removed when the lights were installed. Am I correct there?
Almost.
Okay.
We actually installed 2 signs, but what we found in watching the traffic as we installed them was it was shoving vehicles that were trying to make the northbound left turn movement onto Clay Street from Mosquito, that they were moving over into the through lane, and that was causing some, we'll say, driver angst. There wasn't an incident or anything, but we definitely heard enough about it. And then the other was in the southbound direction down Mosquito. There was some alignment configuration that needed to be improved where the sign was. So we said, hold on a minute, let's let people get used to the new turning movements and some of the new layout, and then thoughtfully put them back in. The rapid flashing beacons are already present at that crosswalk.
Thank you both for that clarification as well. Okay, so with that, if there's no other questions, I'll entertain a motion on item 12.1.
I'll move to adopt.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. We have a first and a second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Clarici?
Aye.
Councilmember Gottberg?
Aye.
Councilmember Yarbrough?
Aye.
Vice Mayor No?
Aye.
Mayor Saragosa?
Aye. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Chief. Okay. We're going to go to item 12.2, and that is to review a request for use of the small Center Street parking lot on November 2nd, 2023 for the Sugar Skull Art Walk event. And I know, Cleve, you have this one for us tonight.
Yeah, I'm just going to introduce James and Melinda, however, because most of the information in my staff report they gave to me, so I think that they can explain it better than I can. So I'll ask them to go through that, the information of what the event will be, and I will finish up and talk about what their asks are and go into that, if that's okay.
That sounds good. All right, then. So with that, good evening, and the floor is yours.
So my name is Melinda Velasco.
I'm James Marquez.
And yes, we're part of the Sugar Skull Art Walk Collective. For the last couple of years, and this year also, we're going to be, we've worked together for the last 2 years. This is the third year that we're working on this project this year, 2023, and we got some funding. The project is basically an ofrenda art walk, so we call it the Sugar Skull Art Walk, and ofrendas, maybe you can talk a little bit about ofrendas.
Well, they say when you die 3 deaths, and the first death is when your body shuts down, you stop breathing and your heart stops pumping. The second death is when your body's cremated or put into a casket and buried in the ground. And the third death, and it's the most painful death of all, is when you're forgotten. The ofrendas that we're building and the whole Dia de los Muertos celebration is to prevent people from being forgotten. It's all about honoring our ancestors, our families, people of great importance that have passed along, and just keeping their memory alive. And that's what we plan to do. That's what we've done in the past few years. And we have 2 galleries, my gallery, which is the Center Street Gallery, and also the Switchboard Gallery, which is the gallery of the Arts and Culture El Dorado. We're going to be using those 2 galleries to build ofrendas and have them open to the public during the construction period, so people can come in and see how that's done and have a good understanding what that's all about. Sometimes people look at ofrendas and they see skulls and things like that, and they don't really have an understanding what that's about, and some people get kind of scared, and it's not anything like that. So we're going to be inviting people to come through. We're actually talking with some of the local school districts. We're going to invite school groups to come through during the construction so we can talk with them and they can see what's going on. We're going to have some activities for the kids to do. One of the things that's really common on ofrendas is people make paper flowers out of tissue paper. They're marigolds. They represent marigolds. And we're going to have an activity where kids we'll teach them how to make paper flowers. And they'll be able to take one home to their family, and the second one is going to go on to a children's ofrenda that's going to be built also.
I want to acknowledge the Asociación Guadalupana. We have several members here in the City Council meeting tonight, and they've been really taking the lead on the children's education program. We've already reached out to 2 school districts. One Camino district is enthralled. They're going to completely engage. So we're excited about that. The idea is to bridge between communities and using this common shared experience of death as like something that connects us, right? Because we all have some kind of relationship with that, and we can kind of come together over sort of remembering, honoring, celebrating our loved ones that have passed away. So this year, as I said, we got a grant, and it's through the California Arts Council and the Sacramento Arts and Culture Arts and Culture Sacramento kind of helped facilitate the grant. And Arts and Culture El Dorado is actually involved with it as well. We've also got some collaboration with Placerville Public Libraries at this point, and a couple other large organizations. The Yours Center, he has a gallery, you guys know. He's involved as well. And there's one more, and I can't remember, Rural Resistance, the community table. So I guess what we're asking for, there's a lot of excitement, and what we're asking for is that we can use the parking lot behind James's gallery, which is on Center Street. It's small, and we want to have mariachis, and we want to have face painting and some free food, that kind of thing in that area. And then we want to do some decorations, and maybe the bell tower, we'd like to use the bell tower to have a public ofrenda so that people in the community can come and they can place their items there. Of course, you know, it's public, so, and no one's going to be playing security. So everybody who puts something there is going to have to know that those things, you know, might be messed with. And the group, there are a number of people in the group that we've had these conversations already, and we've agreed that, yes, we're going to do that, knowing full well that something might go amiss, but then we're ready. We'll take care of it as soon, you know, as soon as we can. So I noticed that there was some concern about that. And there were also concerns about the second story, the people in the second story, the residents in the second stories of the buildings around the bell tower say we're decorating in the middle of the night and taking down the ofrenda in the middle of the night, for example. So that's something that we can keep in mind, and we might even be able to contact the residents and talk to them, and we can, you know, figure out how to do it quietly. Of course, you know, we want people to feel good about this, right? So we're going to do what we can to make it right for everybody.
Yeah, the celebration in the parking lot is only going to be a few hours, and it'll be in the evening, so we don't need it for the whole day. We've already spoken with all the merchants that border the parking lot, and everybody is in support of what we're doing.
There's also, I think that we offered some photographs. If you want to see any photographs of ofrendas, there are some that are available for you guys to view if you want to. There's also flyers for the...
We have some here? Okay, yeah, great.
Oh, look at that. Okay. Some ofrendas are real personal. Actually, the vast majority of ofrendas that are built, you'll never see, because they're personal ofrendas in people's homes, and they're just for their family. These are in the Center Street Gallery, and this particular, well, you'll see a number of them, but some of the ofrendas are family ofrendas. Some are actually have chosen to focus on a certain piece. There's one that's coming up, I think you'll...
That one was in Lobos del Mar.
Yeah, this one here, it's an ofrenda that was built to honor Native American children during the boarding school period. And I think a lot of you probably know what that was about. So they can be really focused like that. They can be family. And over the years, a lot of this has come up from the Americas, and people coming from the Americas to this country have brought that tradition with them. Although there's cultures all over the world that do things that are really similar. Over the years, this has grown into an art form. There's cities all over America that have huge celebrations. We're not going to be doing that, at least not yet. But I think it's going to be something really special for the city, and I think the more people we tell about it, and a lot of them are non-native, non-Latino people that we're talking to, and they all want to participate and want to come. So I think this is going to be a really special thing for the city. I hope you will approve our use of the parking lot.
And the bell tower.
All right. Well, thank you both. Thank you also for bringing, representations of the ofrendas, for people to see and get a sense of what they're. I know that they've been around on the street for several years, but this is really the first year where you're doing it at a much bigger scale.
Yeah, we applied for a grant and we received it, so we're very fortunate. We were very fortunate. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and open it up for any questions of colleagues. And Cleve, I know you wanted to add some additional information.
Let me just go through a little bit of the details. It's in the report, and they referred to some of that. So the main thing is that it actually goes from October 1st to November 3rd, basically, correct? However, the events, those will be in the galleries primarily. And then the event that they have on November 2nd, as mentioned, will be in the small Center Street parking lot across the street from City Hall. That is a city-owned parking lot. So we would ask for approval of this, would approve the closing of that parking lot for the event. I think the event is going from 5 to 9. I'm assuming maybe you would want at least an hour to set up before that.
That would be amazing, yes.
So 4 to 9, or 4 to 10 probably is basically what the times. Does that work for you? Just want to make sure. So that we would request, if the council wants to move forward with this, that be done. The use of the bell tower, not that we don't want it to be done, but we just want to be aware of some of the issues that were referred to. Obviously, we are concerned about security that would be happening there, because we will not be able to provide security around there, 24 hours a day, especially during the night. So that would be a concern when that's going on. The other concern that they mentioned, and I didn't have the clarity on this, that comes to mind for me is the expectation that people would walk up to the bell tower and walk through the bell tower, or just see it from the sidewalk. I was anticipating perhaps it would be things that be seen from the sidewalk, because that presents another issue. There's really not a good path to get to the bell tower. You're crossing streets and traffic and et cetera. So that's something that's been an issue for us before, and when we talked recently about the bell tower and what we wanted to do there. So maybe just a point of clarification on that issue, whether it's something that they would simply view from a distance, or would you be expecting people to actually go in the bell tower? Because that may be a concern that we would have to look at. But that one, again, I don't have a major concern with you building overnight. I would hope that you would be respectful in terms of people that may be sleeping overnight that are in the downtown area. That's not a major issue for me. It's the one night. More of the concern is whether or not there would be traffic going in and out once the displays are built. So,
well, we have two possibilities. If we can do the ofrenda on the bell tower, it would be where people are walking across. But we could also decorate the bell tower, and then there's a possibility of doing the public ofrenda in a different location, like say in the outside of Pachamama Coffee Shop, maybe something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be another option.
Okay.
I think that might. I mean, we're talking one night, 2 nights, one night.
One night.
So it might not be that big of an issue.
Well, that's one of the comments I had, is the artwork in the bell tower going to be big enough so that everyone can see it from the streets, and you're not expecting everyone to go up to the bell tower. So maybe just think about that, and I think that's kind of a concern everyone has, just public safety issues.
Thorny issue, but can we, the side of the bell tower facing the news store and Bene and all that, maybe we block that off, leave righties out of the parking lot so you can still use the parking lot, and then people could walk through there. If it's for a day, maybe we could accommodate that. I know that there's a thorny issue. I just, out in the middle of the room, I just tossed it.
Don't ask me. I'm asking.
Well, I'm one of my counsel. I don't want to ignore Nicole. It's like talking to Nicole about that. Anyway, and then that way, at least that part of it would something to consider. I don't.
Well, rather than doing it for a whole day, if the event is really from like 5 to 9, can we just do that for that short time that day?
Yeah.
But if we do that, it's kind of interesting because once you close that off, then certain cars won't be able to turn around. So have we evaluated what that would look like back to what point you would have to cut it off?
Well,
I haven't, no.
It'd be like 2.
like 3 spots.
Yeah.
And, you could just make that into a triangle. I'm just, I know it's a thorny issue, and we talked about this before and all sorts of other stuff, but that way folks can go see it. I'm really intrigued by this whole thing, and I thought I was going to be out of town, but I'm not. I'm going to be in town. And so if we could make it so that folks for that one little bit could go out and look and, get close to it, might be something we want to consider. There.
Yeah, I mean, as you can see, this has been an issue, as we've talked about before, in terms of the bell tower. Now, I'm not sure how big you guys were thinking for a bell tower, because obviously if it's big enough, you can see it from afar. But if it's a smaller ofrenda, then you will need to probably be close. Or if you're going to be putting an offering, add to it yourself, then of course you're going to be walking to that spot. So just trying to get a better sense of the height or what size y'all were thinking.
Is that it's a public ofrenda so that people interact with it. So they might leave copies of photographs there, or flowers, or.
So you'd have to have access. You'd have to have obviously, if people are going to go do things, you'd have to have access. So.
But again, if that, if that doesn't work here, then we could, as a second best option, decorate it and then have the public ofrenda, the interactive ofrenda, in a different spot. That would be less ideal, but it's a city issue, it looks like.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it might be.
I just can't imagine where else it would go.
That's the only problem. I mean, I know you said the coffee shop in the courtyard.
We haven't talked to them at all, so. But
Gotcha.
We're just brainstorming, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I'll add a little bit. I do have concerns about if people are going to be walking during the daytime in and out all day long. I kind of thought it was going to be decorated at night when there wasn't a lot of traffic, to be something that people could see from the sidewalk versus, all day during the second walking in and out of the traffic. I know I'm the safety concern person on this, but I have safety concerns.
We're all concerned about safety now.
That. So I'm in favor of allowing it to be decorated and decorating it overnight, when there isn't a lot of folks coming and going and a lot of traffic on the street, and then people can view it from the sidewalk during the day. I don't know if there's another location we could give them on public property to do a public ofrenda.
Could we do one just like right across the street from City Hall? I mean, since you have the gallery there, just like in front of City Hall, so it'd be on the street, it'd be on the sidewalk.
Then you're blocking the sidewalk. So help me out here. What is the overnight work going to be? That part of it.
So with ofrendas, this is made out of cardboard boxes.
Right.
Right. Covered with the sheet and lights and that sort of thing. So ofrendas have a structure. So there's going to be a basic structure created and some decorations.
Okay.
For people to put their photographs or their personal, whatever they
Right.
want to honor the people with.
Right. So you would be doing that at some time of the night.
In the nighttime.
And then at some time after that, you guys have the big reveal. Yeah. And then people would, if we can figure out a way to do it, then they would go out and put their offering and their, okay. I think I understand now. I think we should I can't believe I'm saying this. I think we should try to figure out a way to make the bell tower available to this group of people for that period of time so that folks can walk out and interact with this thing. It's, like I said, I am intrigued by the whole idea, and we should try to do it right.
Could we do the timing to correspond with the closing of the because you're going to make it at night, but if we close it from 5 to 9, you'd be open for most of it, so 4 to 10, and just close it for that short period of time.
It doesn't sound like it's going to work that way, though.
I wasn't gonna.
It sounds like that needs to be. It's an all-day event that
Yeah.
people can keep coming.
At 10 in the morning, they're going to go.
They're gonna go do their thing, right?
I wish this would have been advertised as a bell tower closure discussion because I didn't realize that's the discussion we were
Well,
going to
yeah.
have.
Yeah.
We're very well practiced at this.
Well,
I
look,
do like the idea of, you're talking about the courtyard back by the coffee house.
yeah.
Between the Carey House and the coffee house there, that would.
Yeah, we don't.
Yeah, we have no control over
We don't own that.
We don't know that, so that's.
That would be a lovely place. There's a
The
fountain.
gate's locked at night, so.
Yeah.
I mean, you could do it in, well, I guess you could do it in here,
No,
but
that
that
would
doesn't
just-
quite do the same.
Our original intent was all the decoration is done at night. The reveal is when the sun comes up.
Right.
And the day would be used for anybody, and we're going to advertise so people can just come and drop their things off
so
if
that's-
they want to add. It would be hard to do that within a certain period of time because that would limit only those.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay.
And I know that's presents some problems. We could work through that.
Is it?
You guys.
Okay. Could we have, I'm at a loss for words here, but I'm going to just say something, and please don't jump on me right away. Could we have like crossing guards? So I want to bring something to the bell tower. You folks or some group of you is at the bell tower. Is it within the right, the ritual to give it to you and you put it on the thing, or at least we control the flow of people? I mean, because people, in any course of the day, you see people walking over to the bell tower, they walk around it, they jaywalk around there all the time. So it's not like people don't do it. And it's a fairly, unless you get out on the Main Street side of it, it's a fairly low speed environment. So is there a way to, no, there isn't. There probably isn't a way to not with police, but to have like a controlled sort of movement across the road over to the bell tower so people could do their thing. Would that even be acceptable, or?
Should I say liability insurance?
Well, I know. Okay, the lawyer's probably going to scream, and Cleve will scream and stop me.
So I just want to, as far as closing, when we would close, and Terry, correct me if I'm wrong, if I say anything wrong here, what I would, if you want to see this happen at the bell tower, I would recommend that we put the water barricades out, as you said, just to close off that little area on the
that's what you do.
east side of the bell tower. I think it would take probably 2 water barricades on each end to close that area. And what I see it could be done, we could put the barricades out first thing early Thursday morning, which is the 2nd of November, and we could take them down 10 o'clock that night or whatever, late that night. And then as far as them dismantling what is in the bell tower, they could do that without the road being closed. I think we could work with that. If you really want to use it and allow the public flow, that is what I would recommend. Terry, am I speaking correctly there in terms of what it would take to close that?
Yeah, there's just one other item, and that is whatever parking spaces we'd be eliminating for that particular period of time, we'd have to do our 24-hour notice on those parking spaces.
True, yeah, yeah.
Are we talking about that commercial spot also?
No, I think we could leave that open.
Just like put a
With
corridor.
that one's
just the
exempt.
corners of the bell tower
Right.
over to the sidewalk. So.
So right turn out still.
Yeah, you could turn out right.
Right turn out. No left turn out.
No, I think well,
you could be able to.
you
allow
maybe
that.
could do right and left. We
Yeah.
might could.
Just
Okay.
one lane, yeah. You're just behind each
So
other.
Cleve, what you're trying to say is basically go from the bell tower to the sidewalk where the
Yeah.
streets are, just basically making a barriered crosswalk.
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking
and
about?
that between the sidewalk and
It's
the
like
bell tower.
2 or 3 parking spaces, I think.
Yes.
Right.
And to be true to everyone, there is a cost associated with this, which we have talked about in the past. I will front the cost if the folks don't have enough money to do it. So, I mean, if you do have enough money, do it, because I really would rather not. If you
Too late.
If you don't, I will front the cost
The
to put the
cost,
barriers
the
up.
cost for putting them up early Thursday morning is minimal. We can handle that. As where we run into concerns is the overtime
Obviously
costs, and the
overtime
late
costs.
night taking them down would be
Sure.
an overtime cost.
Yeah.
Correct, yeah, we have staff that could do it during the day, if it's a weekday.
Do we, well, and normally, but there is a fee, though. It's like $500 or something to put up the barriers or something like that, if I
We
remember.
calculated $660 for putting up barricades and taking them back down, assuming that it was gonna
Okay.
happen on a weekend.
All right.
Or
I
overtime.
think that's more barricades too, so it may be a little simpler than that.
Okay.
This will be a pretty
can-
simple closure.
We can figure that out.
Okay. Yes, so just to be true to everybody, costs will be dealt with.
Thank you, John.
If we do this.
Well, I'm kind of looking at it like this, because this is something we haven't talked about, nor is this configuration we talked about. So it kind of would be an experiment that we could see how it goes. The good thing about it is it's on a Thursday, it's not on a weekend.
Right.
Like I said, I wish I would have understood this. It would have been good to be able to talk to merchants and talk to people more about that. That part is a little frustrating, but I think I'd be willing to say, okay, we're gonna try it this year, but we're not gonna guarantee it next year. We're gonna see how this goes. We're gonna see what problems we do or don't have. We'll know if this small configuration works for other events. That'll be the positive of this. We'll be trying something that will or won't work, or we'll find out what does or doesn't work.
Yeah, I know we've done one thing since we sort of had the big discussion, which was the 4-H, right? We did the, in the triangle. We have done it once. Okay, so we have a sense of things. So I'm going to go ahead and open up public comment on this item, and then we may bring you back up after that. So, all right. So you've heard us making the sausage up here. So let's go to public comment on this item. Thank you.
Good evening, Ryan Carter. I'll preface my statements by saying I'm really excited about this event, and I will definitely be there. My concern comes with the bell tower policy that we just passed, or you guys just passed, at the very last meeting on August 8th. I find it kind of shocking that the very next council meeting we're talking about breaking that policy that you just passed. The only two events that are allowed to close the triangle are Taste on Main and Girls Night Out, according to the policy. Any future events that closing the triangle, which this partial closure was never even considered in this policy, they have to go be reviewed by the CSD director and by the city manager and come to you in a council meeting for a triangle closure. That's the way this whole process works, according to the policy that you guys just passed on August 8th. At the bottom of this policy, any use of the bell tower only, no triangle for other events, would have to be short in duration, under 4 hours. This, to my math, is 29 to 30 hours they're asking to use the bell tower. And it would not naturally encourage people to congregate or dance in the streets, which by definition, this is asking people to cross the street and congregate in the bell tower to participate with this display. And also the item for the fees, I didn't see that in the staff report also, that also has to be considered. But we just passed this policy 2 weeks ago. It's kind of crazy that we're already trying to break it 2 weeks later. So I would ask that we would follow the bell tower policy that we just passed 2 weeks ago, that if you guys want to close the triangle, I fully support it, but it has to go through the policy that you guys just passed. So I'd suggest possibly the Mooney lot. I think that would be a great spot for this. You could have everything right there, or even the Center Street, having the display on Center Street lot would be great also. But I think the bell tower, by your own definition on the policy you passed 2 weeks ago, will not be allowed for this demonstration unless it's less than 4 hours. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm Margie Lopez Reed, and from Placerville. And the reason I'm here is just because I want to thank you all. Because I know that there's all these little things that you're going to have to work through. I get that. But it was, maybe a month ago that I was here in this same building, and El Dorado Arts and Culture had a big meeting to talk to people about what we wanted for public art in our community, with both permanent and temporary actions. And I see this, I mean, I don't know if the connection was on purpose or not, but I see this as a perfect example of a temporary action that really increases the appreciation of art in the community. In addition to that, because I'm very interested in enhancing cross-pollination of cultures, so to speak, so that we can learn to appreciate from each other, you know, what's there, what's available. And this is a real good example of it. So I want to thank Melinda for getting this started, and James, and you and the El Dorado Arts and Culture for helping fund it, and you all for even considering it. So I really appreciate that. So on another note, some of you already know what Day of the Dead is all about, but I know some of you don't. And I think it's really fun and interesting and insightful if you watch the movie Coco. So, you know, just pull out that movie, and I get it, it's, you know, Pixar and all that stuff, but it really does kind of get to the heart of what James was talking about remembering your relatives so that they never die, that third death. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to say I'm so excited about this opportunity that coming to Placerville. I have, the first year they did it, I built an ofrenda to my parents. I've lost both my parents. And we have such an unhealthy relationship or understanding of death. And I, in a previous life, was a preschool teacher and a follower of Bev Boss, who was just an amazing early childhood educator who believed strongly that early introduction of the concept of death to children's understanding in the right way, in the healthy way, builds better human beings and better quality of life. And so I am so excited to see the collaboration between this group, this activity, and the schools, and just this healthy presentation of what none of us are going to escape. So anyway, I just wanted to say thank you for your efforts in this collaborative endeavor, and I can't wait to be here for it. Thanks.
Ruth Michelson. I really support this effort also. I've had an ofrenda. I've built one in our gallery window for the last 3 years, and it was very meaningful to me to do so and to learn about other cultural practices. It was very enriching, and it's wonderful for our community, and I'm so proud that Melinda applied for this grant. It was just so excellent to get these grant monies to expand and to include so many people who in the past have not been included. Many members of our community who are unseen are taking part in this event. And I really hope you find a way to make it all happen and we have a big celebration. I think I'd like to say that what Margie had to say about promoting other ethnicities and their practices is just so enriching for our community. And also, I want to repeat what Margie had to say about art in public places. This is perfect, especially down at the Center Street parking lot. I can see there's a lot of issues with Bell Tower. I did want to mention that the place near the coffee shop next to Carey House, that whole courtyard, I believe is owned by Carey House. I had once wanted to have an event there, and it's back when there was a previous owner, and she was not flexible in any way, or open. But now it's new ownership, right? And anyway, but that's a whole nother issue. You know, Carey House would have to agree, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, I just wanted to give my support, very exciting, for the work that James and Melinda, plus many others, are doing. So thank you all for your efforts.
Hello, my name is Michelle Bryan. I am a business owner on Main Street, and I urge you to support the closure of the parking lot and to allow the use of the bell tower space. This event truly touches my heart. I've had several people pass away in my family, and to give a little bit more understanding, James, you did an amazing job of explaining it, but it is a very respectful and peaceful event. So it's not this huge party where there's going to be people coming down the street and tearing the city apart. It is very respectful, very peaceful. You feel that, you understand that, and that is what is so beautiful about this event. So I urge your support. Thank you.
Sue Rodman, resident of Placerville. The last time we were discussing the bell tower, Councilmember Clarici came up with the idea of having weddings at the bell tower, and it hit the newspaper. Weddings at the bell tower. If we can have a wedding at the bell tower, why can't we do this? It's a one-day thing. It's not like every single week. It's not once a year. Once a year is the other things that we do on Main Street. The Girls' Night Out is once a year. The Taste on Main is once a year. This they're asking for once a year. I think it's appropriate, and I think it does fit with having public art in public places. This will be accessible for everybody who wants to come and participate. I think it's a good idea. And yes, it flies in the face of our new policy, but the new policy didn't last very long when we decided to have weddings at Bell Tower too. So, I mean, come on, guys. I don't see a problem with it. I think we can do this. The policy is supposed to protect our city and protect the public. But I think you can put this together in a way that does those things and allows us to have a very different kind of public art in public space.
Good evening, and thanks for having open hearts and open minds for this event. My name is Susana Mayfield. I'm a Spanish-speaking family outreach counselor for the El Dorado Union High School District, and I'm also a member of the Asociación Guadalupana, which has been a nonprofit organization in our community for over 20 years. And our main goal has been to enrich the community by giving an opportunity for the non-English speaking people to learn English, to empower them that way, and to then increase the quality of life for all the members of this community. So thank you so much for allowing this to take place. Thank you to Melinda and James and my fellow Asociación Guadalupana members. We're all here with gratitude and a huge excitement to get this project happening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kirk Smith, it's a fabulous idea. I look forward to having more events like this. I've gone to things like this in other communities, most recently a Mole Festival in Sacramento at the Mexican Cultural Center, Frida Kahlo events in Sacramento, and I always wondered, why don't we have them here? And so it's a great start. The one suggestion is, and it's nice to remind people that this was Mexico prior to the gold rush. Likewise, to remember that it's part of the rich cultural history. After all, that famous trial of 1849 involved a miner who was Mexican, killed, robbed. But the thing that that concerns me is a safety issue. And I wonder why, instead of going down there to the bell tower to see the art, you didn't have the mariachi band there, because a mariachi band needs to be in a courtyard, needs to be where it reverberates off of walls. It sounds better that way. So it just seemed for consistency, you could find a way. It's your problem, you get to figure it out. But that seems to be the conflict that I see present. But yeah, do more of these things. Thank you.
Thank you, Kurt.
Clarifying that.
All right. Any other public comments? I'm going to go ahead and close public comment, bring it back to the council for further discussion.
Okay. I want to start out with the policy that we did 2 weeks ago. We did not approve a policy that said that staff could approve bands, 4-hour things. We did not approve that. That is not what was approved. We approved weddings only at the bell tower. We did not say that we could not have any other events to come to the city council to consider. And I will say, when John and I walked and talked to the merchants, when we were back talking about the farmers market, and I asked specifically all of those business owners, how many events a year, just closing the bell tower, would you approve? Some said 4, some said 6. I kept telling you 5, you kept saying 6, I kept saying 5. You know, and so in my mind, we were always going to look at some point, a certain amount of events. But, you know, how do you be fair? And those are the things that we struggle with, and we never finish. But here we are looking at one of those things. Is this as important as Girls' Night Out? Is this as important as Taste of Maine? Personally, I think it is. I think this is one of the events that we should consider having yearly. And I don't think that we are going against what we did 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, we were asked to let staff approve these things, and they would decide, and we said, no, we didn't want to do that. We were holding, you know, to what we said, that we are going to control that here at the city council and look very closely at what we're going to do. So that's what I have to say for now.
All right. Any other comments at this point?
So I guess I would say, I mean, I think this is a great event. I want to find a way to allow them to use the bell tower. I don't want people crossing the street without any barricades back and forth all day long. I don't think that's safe. So, I mean, I would definitely be in favor of maybe trying out a smaller bell tower closure like we've talked about, as long as our, you know, city staff engineer, et cetera, don't see an issue with the traffic pattern of doing that and essentially leaving the exit to the garage open and having a pathway to the bell tower, you know, that's smaller than the triangle closures we've had in the past, but makes a safe crosswalk for folks to come and go all day on the 2nd. Yeah. That's my thought. And I'm totally in favor of letting them use the center street.
Yeah,
parking
that
lot.
one's
Totally. Just
that one doesn't seem to be an issue, as far as I can tell.
Nobody cares about that. Nobody cares about that.
David, do you have?
Yeah. So anyway, I want to have to. I agree with Mr. Carter to a point. Yes, we just did come up with some things that, you know, we said, hey, look, this is what we want to do. With the same right, I think the bell tower is going to be a fluid subject, at least for the next 4 years that I'm sitting up here. So I think we're going to have to be reviewing this until we get it fine-tuned and get it figured out. And it's whether we wrote the policy yesterday, 2 weeks ago, or 6 months ago, each instance is going to be a little different. I'm in favor of this instance, whether they just decorate it or we figure out a crosswalk, which I think we can figure out a crosswalk that is very simple, where not only can we keep the parking lot open, but we can keep the right and left turning open at the same time. So, and it's obvious that it looks like the merchants that are directly in front of the bell tower or agree with this event. So I think we've got an option here, and I think the only thing that we would be blocking is just people coming from Main Street to be able to do the loop around the bell tower. They don't have to do that. They can go the other way around, find some parking. So personally, I think this is a great idea. And like I said, the bell tower is going to be a fluid subject for a while. So bringing it back to the council each time we need to do this is just something we're going to have to deal with and come up with the best solution we can for each event.
Right. And perhaps this particular item notwithstanding, we do need to mission creep. So and although we'll be able to collectively remember, and some people will remind us how many times we've done this, we need to make that part of our process, so that we said, well, we've done it here and we've done it here, and otherwise, it could get crazy. I love this idea. If your heart and lungs not actually functioning is dead, I was dead for about 90 minutes about 2.5 years ago. They had me on a machine, so I'm still here. So I'm one of the few people in this room that's actually kind of been dead. I once heard this, and I think it's true, but even if it's not, I thought it was compelling. We are all 3 generations, give or take. Most of us are 3 generations away from nobody knowing who we were after we die. So you die, 3 generations pass, and the people that actually knew you, are all gone. So this is a really interesting sort of way to sort of maybe maintain that connection to folks, because, we all go that route. Anyway, although, do we want to have staff bring back the thing about the bell tower? So we sort of conceptually, can we conceptually approve the bell tower for use with you guys, staff, bringing back something to us in our next meeting that shows us a diagram that we can bless and say, yeah, or do we care? I mean, I care greatly, by the way, but do we care?
I think they can come up with a plan
that we will like. I mean, it's sort of in my head. I can see.
We do have a couple engineers on staff. I'm pretty sure they can figure out a crosswalk.
I think we can do it.
Okay, thank you for that snarky comment, but I have no problems with this. I'm trying to do this for the public. And
John, I think you can meet with staff and be part of that.
Can I do that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, good. I will do that.
We will make you
we'll do that.
The council member liaison thingy.
Thank you for that. Thanks.
So the only question I got, I guess, is for Cleve at this point is I mean, on the agenda, it's just about the Center Street parking lot, and then, of course, in the staff report, it's got the bell tower. So figuring out how to move this forward would be my question correctly.
I would just approve the closure of the Center Street parking lot and approve the modified semi-closure of the bell tower area as you have discussed tonight.
Okay.
For this event.
I have one more question about the Center Street parking lot. Are those are leased spaces in there?
Some of them.
Some of them, and then some of them
leased and some are public.
Some are hourly or 2 hourly
Right.
or whatever. Oh, okay. Who leases those spots?
It's Liars.
I mean, I don't. Oh, okay. But
Yeah,
no.
Liars
So
Bench.
those people are amenable to.
Some of them are like the Liars Bench, and I don't know, James might have a lease spot.
Actually,
now.
I spoke to the Liars Bench, the Public House, and the Green Room, and they're all in support.
Great, thank you.
Those are the
Those
lease
are some of
spots.
the users.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
Okay. I think we have kind of a sense of things. Does anyone want to take a stab at what a...
So I move for
right, thank you,
staff
David.
recommendation to close the Center Street parking lot for the time specified, along with staff closing down the bell tower with adequate safety measures taken.
All right, that sounds good. Do we have a second on that?
I'll second that.
I think there was a request on the hours to start at 4 rather than 5, which is what's in the staff report. So
Oh, 4 to 10, right?
yeah, 4 to 10
Okay.
rather than 5 to 9.
Yeah.
So if
Then we should amend that to 4 to 10.
Yes.
And you're...
okay,
I will amend my second.
yeah.
All right. And I know John said he'd help with the cost, so will I. I think, if there's an issue, we'll figure that out.
Figure it all out.
Okay, so with that then, thank you, everybody. It was a good discussion and also a good check on us to know that we had this discussion, but, this will be a fluid situation going
We need
forward.
roll call
so,
on this.
So, with that, I will call roll call, please.
Councilmember Clarici?
Aye.
Councilmember Gottberg?
Aye.
Councilmember Yarbrough?
Aye.
Vice Mayor No?
Aye.
Mayor Saragosa?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I will say, teaching the kids how to make those little marigolds, I went to, one of the meetings, and that is not easy. If you can teach me to do it, I will, more blessing to you, because I have no art skills. But so if the kids can do it, more
Okay.
power to them.
Okay, Mr. Mayor. So when I was a child, my mother's business actually decorated a 40-foot flatbed that went behind a semi-trailer that was covered in chicken wire, and every single hole was covered with those flowers.
Oh my God. So are you volunteering then?
No, but I still remember how to do it, unfortunately.
There you go. David can teach the kids. All right. Thank you, everybody, for coming out on this issue. We appreciate it. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, before you go on to the next, I do have an answer about 12.1 regarding the ranking, if you want me to add it to the public.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
So we're in a category with 103 other cities. We want to be 103 in all of those categories. So the lower the number, the worse we're off.
But it's the freeway.
Thank you.
The freeway is really causing us that low number.
Yeah, and Rebecca probably has more accurate numbers on that, I would have. Sort of. I don't know. The freeway's a nightmare. I'd love to give it up. It would definitely help us out, but yeah.
Thank you, Chief.
Our baby, and we have to raise it, I guess.
All right, 12.3. Thank you, Joe. Okay, so 12.3 is a receive and file report regarding a reimbursement request for the Upper Broadway Bike Lane Schnell School Road to Point View Drive, CIP 141508, and a new standard operating procedure for transportation projects involving invoicing. And Mr. Morris has this report for us.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'm going to go through this, and I may mess up in a couple of spots, so I'll seek help from our Director of Finance and our City Engineer, who we kind of all put this together jointly. So, as you know, the city has done a great job of going after grants and receiving grants. Most recently, I'll bring up the grant we received for Placerville Drive of over $15 million, one of the largest we've ever received, and competing against, I think Rebecca told me, the other cities that received that were all major cities up and down California. So that was a real plus for us to be able to do that. So we have done above and beyond in being able to get grants for our community, and I give a lot of credit to our city engineer, our Director of Finance, and especially to EDCTC and their staff, who are always supporting us and helping us with this process. The other point I wanted to make under this is that these grants and administration of these grants are extremely difficult. Takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, and not only difficult, but I will say confusing. And in this case, I will say that there were some issues that arose during the process, and we made a mistake. We messed up, no doubt. We were required to put it short and sweet. We were required to invoice for the Upper Broadway Bike Lanes project by June 30th of 2020. We invoiced for the project, for a certain portion of the project. I want to clarify that, on March of this year, March of 2023, 3 years late. So as you can see, we were off a little bit. Now, if you read through this report, you will see that there are some items, even in the information that we received, that made it appear that maybe that wasn't correct, that we did have until June of 2023. But if you read the agreement, which we should have done, which we had done, but did not follow to the letter, we did not do it correctly. And we didn't err. We made an error, and we own up to that. We've had a lot of discussions, believe me, over the last about month and a half, 2 months, regarding this and how what we're going to do. And I will admit, when we first got the information and this first started surfacing, we were extremely concerned because we thought we had the potential of not being reimbursed for $500,000 on that project. That's not a minor sum of money, I will admit. I'm amazed sometimes when I look at these projects, and we're talking about $15 million on Placerville Drive, but for our small city, $500,000 is not a small sum of money. We were very concerned that we had lost that money and we were not going to be able to recover it. I want to give a lot of credit to our city engineer and Dave Warren, but primarily on this issue, I want to give credit to Woodrow Deloria from EDCTC, the executive director. Were it not for his efforts and his help to convince the CTC to staff to recommend this and hear this, to change this, we would not be there. And in fact, when we were at the CTC meeting and talking to other people, their question was, how did you even get this on the agenda? So I really want to recognize that and recognize Woodrow for his work and his efforts in getting this done. And what we have been able to do through that process is they basically changed the start date, I believe is what I would say, so it gives us another year from now to finish up and get reimbursed for those for that money, so that we do not lose that $500,000. Now, there's some work we have to do because there's about I'm trying to remember the sum, a little over $200,000 that we hope to be able to use for tree mitigation on the project. And we need to figure out how we can do that because there's some issues with that. Normally we would pay the money into a tree bank and we would be done with it. Well, all of those banks are at their caps, as I understand it, so we can't do that, but we're working on a ways to do that and what we can do there. And we are, the other portion that we invoiced for in March, we will immediately, once this is all settled, we will immediately invoice for that, and we should be reimbursed on that amount immediately. Shouldn't be any issues there. So as we went through this project, we looked at, okay, what can we do going forward to make sure this doesn't happen again? And attached to your report, we have a standard operating procedure that we have put together that basically hopes to prevent this ever happening again, and that we never get even close to the actual reversion date, which is actually, I would say, 1 year out. We go on normally we would go on what is called a inactive project list 6 months out from that date. We don't even want to get to that point. And what this new policy basically states is that we will invoice projects every quarter. So every 90 days we will invoice a project. Now that doesn't mean that every project's going to get invoiced at the end of October. These will be scattered throughout the year. And so I don't think Dave would like that if he had to invoice, 15 projects all on one day at the end of the quarter. So, but the 90-day will be a running, floating period that will go throughout the year. So it's not a calendar quarter, but it's every 90 days. And there is a provision where if we have not done work, so there's nothing to invoice at that time, or even if we're under $1,000 that needs to be invoiced, then we will not invoice it that quarter, but we then have 30 days to do work to get it up. And in no way will we ever go beyond what would be 120 days before we will invoice and make sure that, and again, that is 60 days before we would end up in the one scenario going on the inactive project list. The one point I want to mention is that on this particular funding, and I talked about the complication in this, this was ATP funding. The inactive project list doesn't really apply to that. And so even though that was on there, it doesn't apply. It's a different type of funding.
If I may, it does apply to federal ATP.
Federal, right.
This happened to be a matter of state ATP.
Correct. Thank you, Rebecca. So that was the difference there. And unfortunately, there's different rules for federal and state, and trying to keep track of all of those. I'm just thankful that I have Rebecca and Dave that do that, so I don't have to. So, but we have this standard operating procedure. I'm not actually asking for you to adopt this tonight. That's why it's just to receive and file, because I fully anticipate there may need to be adjustments to this as we go along. As you see, Rebecca and Dave and I have all signed this and agreeing to it, that we will follow this. And we hope that we never have to make a report to this like this to you again, nor make a quick one-day trip to San Diego like we did last week again. But we're fortunate that we are where we are, and we are determined to make sure that this moves forward in a good manner for the future. So, Dave or Rebecca, either of you, any further comments you want to make on this?
Okay. Oh, thank you, Cleve and team. I just want to say, this was an important thing, I think for all of us to highlight and to, this is transparent government for you. Even when we make mistakes, we want to make sure that the public knows about it and that we're making corrective procedures. Even though in this case, we were able to still get the money to come back into the city. But we want to make sure that, one, this doesn't happen again, but two, that the public deserves to know when something like this happens. And so I do want to thank everybody, because it was a lot of hard work. And as Cleve said, $500,000 is a lot of money for the city of Placerville. It's budget dust to a lot of other places, but for us, it would be, that's a quarter of our Measure H&L funds if we had to, dip into something to cover those costs. So, we'd be having a much different conversation tonight if, in fact, we weren't able to get those. So again, a huge shout out to Woody and EDCTC, because, it took a lot to get the staff to get to the point where they were able to do this. And, if staff wasn't supportive of this, even if the board members of CTC were, still creates an interesting dynamic if you don't have the staff support on it. So major thank yous to Woody and team there for getting this back on track on this. So I don't know, any other comments on this item? All right, I'll go ahead and open up this item for public comment.
Rodman, this is what I love about Placerville. When you screw up, you admit it, you fix it, and you go on. And that's how most of us try to live our lives. And that's good to see that it happens in government too. It's really good to see that, yeah, we do screw up sometimes. And when we do, they get busy and fix it. So, hooray. Good for you guys, and good for Woody.
Thank you.
Evening, guys. Ryan Carter. I just wanted to say thank you to Cleve and Rebecca and Dave for pulling this one out of the fire for us. I know you guys probably burned the midnight oil on this, and as a taxpayer, we appreciate you, even though you probably don't hear that as much as you should. Thank you guys for saving us on this one. So great job. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, seeing no further comments, we'll bring this back to City Council. I know this is a receive and file, and know that this is a dynamic document that, as we go forward, hopefully we'll never be here again, but if we do, there's a process in place. All right, any other comments? Seeing none. All right, thank you for this, and we will never have this on the docket again, so we won't never have to talk about this again. All right.
You want to do a motion to receive and file, Mayor, or?
Yes.
Either way, I mean.
We'll make a motion. I'll make a motion to receive and file this item.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you. Okay, we are going to move to item 13, which are the council reports from other agency meetings, and the first is for Transit Authority.
We didn't meet.
Okay, El Dorado County Transportation Commission.
We did not meet.
All right, LAFCO.
The August meeting has been canceled, and the next meeting is September, like 25th or 6th or something like that. Yeah.
All right, SACOG. I was actually in San Diego for the CTC meeting, so I missed going to the SACOG meeting. It was in Yuba County. Marysville was hosting, and really was just more about things going on in Yuba and some of their transportation plans. They did actually really well in the competitive grant cycle. So it was good, I think, for member agencies just to hear kind of their approach to the competitive funds that are going forward, because it's always a bone of contention at SACOG of who got money and who didn't get money. So, it was, I heard it was a really good meeting from that standpoint to hear from the Yuba County transportation staff members. Pioneer.
No meeting this month. Next month, the meeting on the 28th, which I will not have a report for because I will be in Alaska.
Nice. I like it. Fishing?
Cruise.
Cool. Very cool. All right. Placerville Fire Safe Council.
We didn't have a meeting.
All right. Opportunity Knox, COC.
Did not meet.
All right. I will go ahead and open up item 13 for any public comments. All right. Seeing that, no comments on no comments. I will close public comment. Thank you, everybody. Move on to item 14, request for future agenda items. Anybody have a request? Seeing none. Staff? Nothing? All right, cool. Item 15, city manager, staff reports. Anything you wanted to highlight, Cleve?
Just one thing I want to mention, and Terry, maybe steal your thunder, but we did get notice that between the 6th and the 12th of September, they plan to start the pickleball courts at Lions Park. We're going to work on doing a groundbreaking for that, and we'll get back to you on a date for that. But anything to add on that, Terry?
No, that about covers it. So, yeah, just got the news. So, thanks, Cleve.
All right.
Yeah. I want to thank whoever, and I mean whoever it was, assuming it was somebody from the city, that cut the limbs down so we can now see the temperature and the time on the El Dorado Savings Bank building. And if somebody just sort of did it, that's okay too, because I got more phone calls about that than anything else in the last month or so, that they could not see the sign, even though everybody has a thermometer and a clock in their cars nowadays. Anyway,
That was park maintenance did that.
thank you, park maintenance.
Cool. Yeah, you have to triangulate your temperature. So your car,
I had a guy tell me, Dick Perry, Coach Perry, El Dorado High School, the fixture. He said his sister missed Bedford because she didn't see the sign and the temperature thing, and that was always the thing she used to turn right.
There you go.
That's tragic, yeah.
Okay. Any other staff reports? Anything else? All right. Upcoming items, I'll let people read that at their leisure. So at 7:18, I will adjourn tonight's meeting of the Placerville City Council. Thank you, everybody.